your 2-year-old daughter had been tucked in.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for her to be tucked in there comfortably, something or someone had to have assisted with that.
Yeah, or she just never got out of the bed or something else, in the house.
Something else in the house,
Yeah.
and it wasn't her.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Paranormal Impact. I had a very interesting interview with a Kansas City native named Brandon, who was eager to share all of his multiple paranormal encounters. One of those encounters being in his own home. He captured an apparition on his surveillance camera and was able to describe that very eerie moment to us. Brandon is a father and an ex-Marine. Let's take a moment and allow him to share his paranormal impact stories.
My name is Brandon Vidal. I am a native of Kansas City. I've had several experiences with the paranormal or supernatural, goes back from a child, maybe 7 years of age, up until, even now. So it's something that I deal with and live with on a daily basis, just understand it more, now. So it doesn't scare me as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about all these experiences, you guys, because he dropped some bombs on me. And we also have a video, not a video, but an image, a picture.
Yeah.
We have an actual still image of an encounter at one of your properties, your house or someone that's a family member's house. We have an actual still image of what appears to be a feminine, maybe a female ghost, or we're still kind of trying to analyze it to see exactly, but it's definitely something that is strange.
Yeah.
So just to kind of give you guys a little bit more detail about Brandon, share some more information, because you got some history outside of this paranormal experience.
Mhm.
You got some other history to your life.
Yeah.
Like you were in the military.
Marine Corps.
Yes.
Yes, I was in the Marine Corps from 2000, 2007, as a tactical vehicle specialist, weapon systems, mixed martial arts, and did that for 7 years. Got out and became I worked at the Department of Homeland Security for another 8 years as a federal officer. Did that, got out of uniform, wanted to get into the government. Went over to Social Security, and from there went into the Army Corps of Engineers as contract specialist. Did that for a while, got out of the government because they were forcing the vaccine. I was against it initially.
Oh.
Yeah, but after getting COVID twice, really bad, yeah, I ended up getting it against my better judgment, and I was down for 6 months because of it, do a lot of damage to my heart,
So so you've had COVID. You're a pretty decorated, military individual. Been in the I'm sorry, say which branch you were in. Marine Corps. Gosh, it takes a lot of guts to be in that. Like, what kind of character do you think a person needs to have to want to be in the Marine Corps?
Well, when I was young, I was up for the challenge. I know I had to do something with my life, so I was impressionable and just determined, So at that age, you can be molded to almost whatever as long as you have the will, and drive. So I had the will and the drive, and it taught me a lot. It was the best thing I could have done with my, life as far as foundation, So
were you infantry?
no.
Okay, because I know my family members, they were all infantry. They wanted to be out there with a gun on the front line. And
Yeah, I started out with motor T, which was a vehicle operator. Yeah, I lived from there, became an instructor, and branched out to other stuff. So
so you are native to Kansas City, post-military, went through some traumatic things in your own individual life. Also, on top of that, you're a full-time father, right?
Yes.
Just tell them about your kids and your family.
Yeah, I have a 23-year-old daughter. She works for immigrations. A 24-year-old son. But I also have a 16-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So father, ex-military, and what do you do in your ordinary day job? What's your day work?
Now, since I left the government, I got my CDL, Class A. So, now I'm a driver. No longer over the road. I did that for a while, all the time. I was actually working for Frito-Lay, driving from Independence, Missouri to Topeka, Kansas every day, so that was 3 hours for a commute, and then I didn't have a layover. So that's 13 hours for my day. So 16-hour days and stuff,
Yeah.
I didn't have to stay out of town, so I got all quick to the point where I was, driving and to be hallucinating and everything,
Yeah.
like you're wide awake, but well, you feel wide awake, but you actually sleep, so I got some point where it was just too dangerous and I had to
Right.
get something local. So now I, do local driving.
Yeah. And, being on the road and driving those long periods of time can be mentally disabling for you. Father, post-military,
Mhm.
truck driver, Kansas City native, just so many amazing things associated with you. And on top of that, you have had paranormal experiences.
Definitely.
And these are stories are so interesting because you have somebody who is a father, a committed individual to the community, have been in the military, committed himself to the citizens of the United States, and has dealt with things that most people would find just puzzling.
Definitely.
And you're an African American man.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, now we can get to the ghost part. Now that we know a little bit about you and how this is some strange occurrences that have associated themselves with you, when did you first start noticing? Tell them where and when you first had your very first encounter.
Okay. Well, the first encounter was more so of experience where I was able to know what happened before, I was told, so I was about 7 years old, and I was out with my auntie, and we came back to the block. We lived on 55th and Olive, came back to the block, and there was ambulances everywhere, police cars and stuff, so, and this, immediately I knew it was my cousin. He had gotten hit by a car on a bike, I just knew that, and I just knew it, and everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. So
You saying you could sense things with your cousin?
yes, and I knew what happened too, and stuff. So I was thinking that. So I went with my auntie, see what happened, and she was like, "Yeah, mine. This name was mine. This got hit by a car, while I was riding the bike, So that was the first experience, and of course, at the time, I didn't really understand it and stuff. I was like, oh, wow, I was thinking, I just knew knew the information before it was told to me. Yeah. So after that, I was around 10. Well, no, I was around probably not, 9 or 10. I was probably younger than that because what had happened is that for some reason I like to put my hands on the eyes of the stove.
You can explain this.
Yeah. So I was doing that, I was like I was Michael Jordan, and I was touching the thing, and the last one I like, so burned my hand real bad, and so at the time, no one knew. My grandma didn't know much about first aid and everything, so her first thing was to put Vaseline on my hand and put it in some cold water, and stuff. So it was in cold water and stuff, and my uncle came by, I was content, I was still hurting, but it was relieving the pain a little bit, So my uncle came over, he was like, "Get your hand out of that water," because he found out what happened, like found blister up and everything. So got my hand out of the water and it was, blistering and stuff. But the pain was so excruciating, it was like I had left my body,
Oh,
and went to the roof. I never knew what a roof looked like, like I've never been on a roof before, but I was like up, past the roof, looking down at myself, screaming, it was crazy, So at the time, then just looking back on it as I, got older and stuff, I was like, wow, it was another experience,
yeah.
So
you're saying that you had these, what I typically call them, a sensitivity.
mm,
You had a sensitivity at the age of 7 where you was able to pick up on certain things, see certain things, and feel certain things. Because you're saying you literally had an outer body experience after you injured yourself.
definitely, that pain was so crazy, it was like just shot through my body. And I just remember just screaming and looking down at myself. It was in pain. It was
That had to been so traumatizing for you to be able to feel and experience that. Did you ever talk to anybody about what you had felt and been through?
no, nothing. Not. I mean, yeah, I never spoke to anybody. I mean, it was a point where I was at my mom's friend's house and stuff, and I said I spoke to my mom about this. To this day, I was maybe about 8 or 9, and we were in her apartment. Somehow I went down to the pool by myself, and got into the deep end and didn't know how to swim. Yeah. And so someone told me to just jump on one foot all the way to the shallow end. Yeah. So I did that and made it out and stuff, but it could have been horrible. I never told my mom about that. So I'll just let you know. My communication at that age, mom usually always calling and stuff like that. So,
So you felt kind of limited to you could actually vent to and talk to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just dealing with stuff,
Yeah.
it's like,
And I think that's a lot of what we do as children. We internalize a lot of things. So after those experiences during your childhood, were there other things that came up? Any paranormal, supernatural, ghostly encounters that you had that
Yeah.
you didn't talk about?
when I was 13, my grandma passed away. And this experience is similar to the last one I mentioned, where she had some type of heart condition, I guess, where she would frequently, get rushed by 911 to the hospital and stuff like that,
Yeah.
to where it became common and nobody really panicked or freaked out,
Yeah.
You just knew she'll be back, she'll be fine, but this particular day, she had that same experience and stuff, and something told me, like, this is the last time you're going to see your grandma, and I'll never forget that voice, like, this is the last time you're going to see your grandma, I don't remember the exact words and stuff, but, that's basically what, what was told to me, and around.
So this thing is so interesting. So you have this sense and these voices and these energies, as I call them, that are communicating with you, and you're getting information before it even happens.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is scary as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, when you're young and stuff, like anything that comes to you, I mean, it might be different, but you don't really have anything to measure it with,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Were you afraid?
No, it wasn't afraid. It was just, the fact that it actually happened, my cousin that rushed behind the ambulance to the hospital and stuff, and he came back, a short time later, he came in and I was crying, and we all knew, that was it,
He's from you, and you're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And I
don't think I've ever told my family that, even my cousins and stuff, with that.
We just
happens.
held on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing happened with your grandmother, and you internalized that too.
Mm-hmm.
So you had this sensitivity as a child to where these energies are constantly communicating what you can't talk about it, or didn't talk about it rather, with anybody. So you went through that as a child. Let's talk about some more encounters that you had around her.
So getting older, I guess when they come to mind, that's when I was in the Marine Corps. I was married to my daughter's mom, and we're in a base housing. So the base housing has tile floors, and the walls are bare, so it echoes. When you walk, whether you walk on with barefoot feet or whatever. My daughter at the time, she was 2, so my ex got me to read the Bible with her. So I agreed to read the Bible. We started reading the Bible. My daughter was in her room down the hallway, tucked in, dark hallway. And so as we started reading the Bible, we hear these footsteps, loud, and like a person with no shoes on, on the tile floor, walking towards us and stuff. So, all right. Her name was Carrie. I said, Carrie, come on, And 2 years old, you're in a dark hallway immediately with your parents all around. You're gonna run, to a light, to a voice, So nothing. We didn't hear anything. She never came. So we ignored it. Like, wow, it was weird. Proceeded to read the Bible and heard the footsteps again, this time louder and faster. This time I'm like, wow,
And tell me again, because I think I might have missed it. I'm sorry if I did. Where were you guys located at?
It was North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Yeah, Convolution.
Okay.
Yeah, base house.
At what kind of house?
Base housing.
On the base.
Yeah.
It was base housing. Gotcha. Sorry, I missed that part. I got so snuck in.
Sure.
So you're on the base and you're starting to read the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So she was, we heard the footsteps louder and faster the second time and stuff. So I'm like, wow, it's weird. So I get up and we go check on my daughter, I go in there and she's tucked in her bed, like asleep, knocked out, So I grab her, I get chill right now talking about it, I grab her and I go in there, turn her on, like, she Kira's, tucked in, and stuff, she's not just gonna come out, then go back in, tuck herself in, 2 years old, So I told her, Kira was tucked in, and she's like, okay, let's just keep reading it, reading the Bible and stuff like that. And so we kept reading. This time it got louder, faster, and closer, At this point, I'm like freaked out, I didn't know too. I just knew that reading the Bible kept making a sound. So my thing was like, let's stop reading the Bible,
Yeah.
So we stopped reading the Bible and stuff, and that was the end of that experience and stuff, but it kind of freaked me out, kind of stopped me from, wanting to read the Bible and stuff like that, for a while.
So you think that experience on the base with your daughter kind of turned you from wanting to read the Bible?
It definitely did. For a period of time,
So you feel that it was like resurrecting something when you did read the Bible?
Yeah, I think it was, I knew it was trying to scare me from, reading it, and stuff, but so much wanted to stop, so.
Okay, so you felt like when you read it, more stuff happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I'm not going to read this no more. These things are going to surface.
Definitely.
Wow, so your 2-year-old daughter had been tucked in.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for her to be tucked in there comfortably, something or someone had to have assisted with that.
Yeah, or she just never got out of the bed or something else, in the house.
Something else in the house,
Yeah.
and it wasn't her.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you two ever share any of that with anybody?
I don't think we did, as a matter of fact, because after that, it was several things that happened once we moved from North Carolina, and into our house in Kansas City off of Blue Ridge and so like that, So, she was, she was used to, she understood it. She wasn't really used to dealing with it and stuff, but I dealt with it more than she did, but she was just aware those things can happen,
Yeah. So she was more conscious
Mhm.
and, hey, I know these things can happen, but she had never been affected by it before, like you have, obviously. Wow. So from that experience with your 2-year-old daughter, did she ever say anything about anything else happening to her when she got a little bit older?
No, she never.
She never.
She's seen some spirits in the house that we moved in later,
Yeah.
and stuff, like somebody going up the stairs. But,
Oh, so she's actually seen some things. How old is she now?
she's 23.
She's 20.
Yeah.
And has she come to you and spoken to you as an adult about some of the things that she's been through?
No, she hasn't. Yeah, something that shows up. That's something that she still deals with or not.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they want to be oblivious so they don't notice certain stuff. They try to,
They kind of suppress it or just dismiss it because probably makes them feel more comfortable.
never happened.
Yeah. Like it happened, but it didn't happen though. So, and that's on base. And North Carolina has a lot of history when it comes to paranormal experiences. North Carolina, South Carolina. I don't know too much about that base out there, but I do know a lot of those bases are known to have some type of paranormal disruptions or impacts. How long were you on that base?
4 years on that base, yeah.
4 years. Okay, that's a long time. Did you ever experience anything additional to that?
Not that I can remember, it'll be voices, like I'll be in, and I still deal with that to this day, like I'm upstairs and then I'll hear you call me, I hear your voice call me, so I come down here and like, you call me? Like he'll say no, but I didn't call you, And stuff. Now I'll go for my ex and myself, we'll both hear each other's name being called.
Yeah.
and
Did you ever stay in that same sector of the base? Well, you stayed there. What were your feelings about it after that?
at the time I didn't think it was connected to the base. I thought it was just connected to me reading the Bible, so
Gotcha. I was just saying, you were like, no more Bible, no more stuff, no more headline.
definitely, which wasn't the case at all. Following me where I went pretty much,
Wow. And we're going to get to that because that was going to be my next question. On the base, still on the base, did anybody else ever mention, whether they reported it to you directly or just mention in casual conversations about things strange?
No, I mean, we've seen some stuff in the sky that was pretty questionable.
You got to tell me about it.
Yeah, I was like, being on a military base, we see stuff, training, exercises and stuff, but then, what training is going on usually, and, okay, that's not training, go ahead. It was super top secret stuff, which probably is not going to be conducted here, the way it is, But yeah, you would see stuff, doing like be in the desert, especially, Spain, a few other places, a few other countries, California even, 29 Palms. I'll be out there conducting night operations and stuff, and you'll see stuff, just hovering, floating and disappear, or, and stuff. Yeah.
And would that just be hovering over the base? What body of water is out there? Is that
It's the Pacific.
Atlanta, Maddie? The Pacific is. Look, I am not geographically versed. I think it's the Atlantic.
Yeah.
But so did you guys usually see it hover over any bodies of water?
Yeah, I mean, but usually like we'll be in the desert, and so the devil's this stuff, because the light pollution is low, so you have more visibility as far as what's in the sky, even stars and stuff, and it's great to look at. But you see all type of stuff,
So you had experiences with just, they call those premonitions, right? You can see things before it happens, or that sensitivity, and then you had an encounter at the base with your daughter, and you saw what you believed to be her, or it could have been some type of energy form that manipulated its way into making you believe it was her, and then you saw something strange there, and now you're telling me that you actually seen more interesting stuff, what they call them UAPs, UFOs, extraterrestrial sightings.
Definitely.
On your base. So you weren't the only one. There was other people at the same time that observed the same thing in the desert.
Yeah. And if you try to report at that time, if you try to report it, they'll say, "Oh, you didn't see nothing." They won't take a report. They'll just push it under the rug, and you didn't see anything. Don't even talk about it.
So you guys were pushed to secrecy, to silence.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't not encouraged to keep talking about it. So.
Oh wow. So they didn't put one of those Men in Black things over your face and be like, you didn't see this. You're like, what? Well, I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything that happened. Oh, that's so strange. So how many times did your unit and other people in the same base have these sightings?
When we did different night missions and stuff, it was pretty common. You with the night vision goggles and stuff like that. You see all type of stuff. And couldn't explain it. Our commander, wouldn't speak on it or say he don't know what it is, or so something out there, but we don't know what it is, so it's not bothering us. So
and there was saying, if it's not messing with me, don't mess with it. Don't resurrect it. And sometimes you tell it makes itself visible to you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
They pretty much accepted it because for us to be for it to be in our airspace, not to try to do anything about it, that they can't do anything about it. So
it's so crazy that they forced you guys to secrecy to where you couldn't say anything. Was it in your contract? Did they, with the reports inside?
No, I never got to that level as far as they just put it on the surface level. Where now, if I would have went ahead and made a big deal of it, and disregarded what they told us to, just, leave it alone.
Just leave it alone.
That
Don't follow.
probably would have got, further and so like that.
Wow. So back on that base. And what year did those sightings happen with your unit?
I would say between 2000 to 2004. Yeah.
Okay. So this was, during an era where a lot of people were making reports of sightings, especially on the coastlines, especially on the coastal states. A lot of people were reporting there, but those reports were kind of getting stuffed away, and they were not taking them as seriously as they should have. And again, like you said, with your unit, hey, hear no evil, see no evil. They blinded you guys. You were forced into secrecy. So did you see, okay, with these sightings, did you guys ever see anything additional, any beings or any actual, they call them like grays or alien type of?
No, I've never seen that. I've never seen any of that.
Okay. So I know a lot of those coastal states, they've been reporting having seen those a lot more frequently. I know a lot of people in North Carolina have reported seeing grays more frequently. So you're on the base, you have these sizes, other people in your unit have experienced the same thing as you. Now, what do you do with that? Did you ever have any fear of all of that stuff happening with your unit or?
No, not really, because I've always been, intrigued by stuff like that. So I always wanted to know more and, I know someone that's been around for a long time, so it really didn't shake me.
You really should. You.
Yeah.
You're like, I've been through this. I probably saw this coming. Did you see anything coming? Did you sense anything strange?
No, not really. Marine Corps is so fast paced, we see something crazy again. Next thing, you got something else going on. So you don't really have time not to really think about it. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You have been through a lot spiritually.
Yeah.
And you've had a lot of what I consider paranormal impacts, right? So when was the next interesting journey? Because this is this is interesting.
Yeah, I think it was like pretty frequent where my house on Fremont, 118th of Fremont, I still want to go there, to see if the people that are living there now, or have had any experiences and stuff, because that house had the most stuff going on, It's like it fed off the energy. I was getting a divorce, from my daughter's mom living there. But even before then, it was stuff where we would it would just be me in the house and stuff. And I would hear, we had my man cave had the TV and everything downstairs, surround sound. Right above that was the living room,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And I used to hear footsteps, like walking on the hardwood floor, like boots and stuff like that, And I have the alarm set, so I know nobody got in. I was there by myself. And so I would get my gun and go clear the rooms, look under the bed and nothing, I stunned for it, when I was gone a lot of times. The motion detector would go off in the house and EDT would call, do you have pets in the house and stuff like that? Because your motion detectors are going crazy, I was like, no, I would tell them I didn't have any pets, so. But it was something that I was used to dealing with. And then my daughter's mom, there was one time where we were in the bed. I had my cousins over. We were downstairs playing Madden and stuff. But I left. They were downstairs playing Madden. Sometimes we were listening to music, but at a certain time, the music went off and they'll just play Madden. So I had gone to bed and I was laying there, and the bed started, started shaking, and I'm thinking that's maybe the vibration from the music, so I reach over and tell them to turn down the music. I was like, oh, we don't have any music going on, It's not like, all right, whatever. Maybe I was tripping, so try to go back to sleep or try to go to sleep again, and bed just started shaking and stuff like that, So I'm like, man, I look up and where there's usually light is coming in through the blind right there,
Yeah.
There was a street light out there. So I always get some light, come in. But we went from this ball of blackness, probably this big, and it just got bigger and bigger to where the whole room was just pitch black, and stuff. The bed started vibrating again, you know. I'm like, I'm just ignoring this and just go to sleep. So I ignored it, went to sleep the next night. Next morning, it's up to my daughter's mom, like, you know, last night, I was,
Did she feel any of that?
well, I was telling her about my experience, you know. I was like, yeah, last night. And before I could get out a sentence, she was like, you're about to say something about that black ball that was in the window. What? I was like, why didn't you say nothing? So, you know, why'd you wake me up or get my attention? Because I thought I was dealing with it by myself, you know. But she tried to brush it off and stuff. It scared her, you know,
Okay.
and stuff. So we both just left it alone, you know, and stuff. We didn't really, I was like, wow, it really happened, you know, for her to confirm it, you know. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So she acknowledged it, and she's what I would consider a logical skeptic, right? So you embodied it first. You internalized it first. She's right there with you. She noticed it. She doesn't say nothing. I'm not giving any attention to it as part of what she said, how she felt. So you get up in that morning, and let me ask you this, because I gotta kind of get an idea of how old you were when this was happening.
Let me see. I was grade 2 now. I left her back in 15 years ago. Probably about 15 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Would you have been in your late 20s?
Probably
In the 30s.
now. No, that sucks.
I'm right there with you.
I'll say about 28.
About
Late 30s.
late 20s, early 30s.
Somebody's going to do the math.
So, yeah. Somebody put a comment and do the math for both of us, because I am not a mag. A mag, yes, sorry, graduated college, but it's but so you were late 20s, early 30s. So this kind of giving you guys an idea of how old he was, and when they were having these experiences. You know, it's not just when you're a kid, but seems to be a lot more active when you're a child. But 2 grown adults in a house here in the south side of Kansas City, Missouri. Would that be considered the Ruskin Heights district? Or is it right outside of that?
It's outside of Ruskin Heights. It's off of Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
118th.
Okay. So it's right out. It's almost on the skirts of it.
Yeah, it's like south of Ruskin Heights.
Yeah, a little bit further south.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like past the Grandview.
It's not that far. It says closer to the price shopper over there.
Okay.
What was that called? Truman Corners.
Truman Corners.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's
So, yeah,
north of that.
it's in the.
Ridge.
Got you. So that's in that same sector of Kansas City that's semi-connected. I'm mentioning that because the house that I lived in was off of Longview and Food Lane, which is where I had my experiences. So just kind of thinking about the proximity and where you were at versus when you were at.
Would be what?
Yeah, Kirktown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yep. Yeah, and it was Kirktown is a location in Kansas City that a lot of us are very familiar with, a very urban area. So 118th and Fremont, you were in the bed with your spouse, and you start feeling all of this vibration on the bed. You see a dark ball that completely blacks out your room.
Mm-hmm. Can even see the hand in front of my face. It was complete pitch black.
That dark?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
She saw it. Did she snuggle up to you a little bit closer, or
I thought she was asleep, you know? Yeah, I thought she was asleep, and I wasn't going to wake her up. Yeah, I was just like, let's go ahead and ignore it, put her to sleep. Yeah, my thoughts.
Wow. Okay. And that just lets you know women are conscious even when they're not conscious. They see it and feel everything, but they're not always going to say anything. So she felt it. She got up. She acknowledged it and mentioned it to you the next day. And you had company in your house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
my
right.
cousins are downstairs.
Did you mention anything to them?
No, I mentioned, turn the music down, and they told me they didn't have music on. So they was always respectful. So no, they weren't,
Oh, wow.
my answer or anything. So.
Wow. And you thought it was vibration of the music, because them speakers can get loud and they do vibrate a lot of, they do vibrate a lot in your home. So you never mentioned it to them. Did you mention it to anybody outside of just you and your wife at the time?
No, I didn't.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Did she ever mention it? Did she ever bring it back up?
She never brought it back up. She used to try to ignore it,
Yeah.
and discount it, or she didn't really deal with it. So
Yeah. Dude, so what else happened?
After that, I was going through a divorce, and it seemed to really send it off. The energy, I guess, with the divorce and all the negative energy just brought about like daily
Yeah.
footsteps. And after that, I had someone else over there. I had remodeled and everything. So I had someone over there. We were going down to my man cave, and she was like, we just both felt this evil presence. It was like we were headed down, and we were just stopped in the tracks. Like it was this feeling, like, I explained, it was like an evil presence. And she was like, your house is weird. That's what she said.
So what was this that's in the house now?
Someone that was digging.
Somebody you were dating.
Yeah.
And y'all went downstairs, and then she senses something weird
Mm-hmm.
about
We
both.
At the same time, we both, just feel the thing. I didn't want to acknowledge it because she'll never come back. So
Right.
I wasn't up there.
Right.
And I have to live there by myself, at the time. So I was like, the more I feed into it and talk about it, the more I have to.
Or it actually starts to make itself more active.
Yep.
So she notices it. You notice it.
Mhm.
How long after? What was the timeline after when you went through your separation and remodeled your house? Was it about a year and a half later?
About a year. Yeah.
About a year.
Yeah.
And then and during that time, had you had any other experiences?
Yeah. I had my cousin living there with me, and he came and went as he pleased. We were both bachelors and stuff, so let him stay with me to get himself back on his feet and stuff like that. And we used to be together all the time anyway. So he lived there. He had my key to the door, but he didn't have the alarm key, the alarm code to my phone, to my alarm system. Not that I didn't trust him or nothing. He just didn't. It's just easier for him to call me when he's going in, and I'll disarm the alarm from my phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this particular time I was at work, sorry for Department of Homeland Security. It's around 4:30 in the morning. I was headed to work or at work, and my alarm started going off. So when the alarm goes off, it send a stream of pictures, to whatever's causing causing the motion,
Yeah.
and stuff to the phone sends pictures and stuff. So I see my cousin there, and I'm like, then he called me. And one of the pictures, I see him calling me, telling me to turn off the alarm because he forgot to call me and let me know before he went in.
Right.
I'm like, all right, cool. In the picture, I show him, I see him, on the phone. I see this image of this lady. I thought it was a lady and stuff, but, she's like pale looking white or whatever. I don't know if it was a lady or, I figure it was a lady, but the camera took like 3 pictures and sent them all to my phone. Each time she's getting closer and closer. So I was like, I'm on the phone with him as he's telling me to turn off the alarm. And I'm like, oh, you got somebody there with you, huh? I was like, nah, it's just me, So I'm like, he's my cousin. He's like my little brother, really. And so he's not going to lie to me about having somebody here with him. I didn't care if he did or not, So I get home. I'm like, that's weird. I'm looking at the picture, the whole time on my phone. I get home and I show him the picture. And his expression's like, wow, It was like nobody was here. I didn't see anybody. I was like, well, if somebody was here, you didn't see anybody. Somebody was definitely there, But I had my pool table in that same room. So that was one experience. And I have that picture, on my phone. And now, like all my friends and stuff like that, they'll be out talking to someone. They'll text me randomly. Hey, send me that picture of, that ghost in your house and stuff like that, So it was that experience with that. But that was something that happened pretty often because I had the pool table up there.
Yeah.
And, like I was saying, that motion detector would go off pretty often. And no one would be there. But then I'll go back and look at the motion, and I'll see images, of like old black people. It was crazy. This one where like it was 2 black people sitting around, this table that wasn't there. It's like a pool table right here. I didn't have a table right here, but it was like they were sitting at this table that didn't exist, physically, and stuff. So I had several pictures like that to the point where I just stopped looking at it,
Do you still have those photos?
I had that one where the lady was getting closer and closer to my cousin. But, at that time, I was like, I had to live there by myself. My cousin had moved out. Or if he didn't move out, he was hardly ever there because he had his own life and stuff like that too. So, you know, a lot of times I was there by myself, you know.
Gosh. So you worked for the Department of Homeland Security. Your cousin is in the house. You buzz him in to turn the alarm off. You get a notification that somebody's in there. You're getting all of this footage because he's in there. And this is the photo. Now it makes more sense where he's standing because I'm like, is he on the phone? And then there's this image and with your consent, if you're okay with me showing the image.
Absolutely.
The image shows the silhouette of what we would believe to be a feminine energy. And it looks a little small. So it could be anywhere from like what we were saying, a teenager to a young adult. But it's definitely another presence that's in the room with him. And it's very, very obvious in the photo that you said. So we're going to show that image for anybody who's actually going to be viewing the YouTube link, because this will be uploaded to YouTube. And you can see in the photo, it's so chilling. It gave me goosebumps when you first sent it to me.
Yeah.
And I could just see that it was a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks so curious.
Mm-hmm.
It looks so curious. It looks so interested in everything and everybody that entered that place. It seemed like a very, very active spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you saw that in the footage and you showed it to your cousin, what was your cousin's?
His first reaction, I mean, you could see it on his face. It was just like, wow. It was like nobody was here. I was like, yeah, somebody was there.
Somebody was there with you.
Yeah.
But not there. So was he afraid? Did he move out right after that? Or did he?
No,
he accepted it. You know, it was thought it was weird, like, you know, just random and stuff, you know. Because I did share with him some of the experiences I had with, you know, different stuff and, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, some people they don't really, you know, take it, you know, just want to just not deal with it. So.
Yeah, they're just like, dismiss it. I don't want to talk about it. You don't have to bring it up again, which is very, very common in our Black community. We're very, very dismissive of those things because we were trained to be dismissive of them. So when you got home, after seeing that image, you gotta go home, right? What did you do? Did you go downstairs and try to feel anything, or
no? Definitely not. I tried to forget that it happened. You know, at that time I didn't really share. I think it took a while from that sharing on Facebook, you know, and stuff. Because I think I actually waited until I got rid of that house to even share. You know, so I just wanted to be in denial and, you know, not deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, because I had to live there and I was still hearing footsteps and, you know, doors closing, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm there by myself, you know.
Wow. Did any of them ever physically touch you, attack you?
There was one time where I was, this back when my ex was living there, my daughter's mom. I was headed to church and I was walking down the stairs. You know, the momentum from walking down the stairs, you don't have to do much really. You know, just let your body flow. And just on the third stair, you know, mid-air, just something grabbed me and held me to where I couldn't step. You know, take another step. You know, so then I was like, wow, that is. So that's the only physical thing I ever remember. You know, I'm dealing with that. You know, but it was definitely. You know, it wasn't violent or anything. It just stopped my stride, you know.
And you were going downstairs to the basement?
No, I was going downstairs from the bedroom to the living room.
To the living room.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going from the top level to the main level.
It was that I was going to that same area that you're seeing on the picture where the image was, you know. So it's that same one.
So something, basically, what do they call it? Just demobilized you and froze you in one spot.
Yeah. It seemed like it happened more often when I was trying to go to church or read the Bible and stuff like that. That's when it was really heightened. Yeah.
Oh, so back to reading the Bible.
Yeah.
Back to getting connected spiritually with the word or anything of that association. It felt like it was preventing you from that.
Definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or trying to discourage me. Discourage me into just leaving it alone. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is, oh gosh, that is a lot. Especially in those houses in that area. They're just basic houses. They're not grand Victorian style homes.
Yeah.
They're regular raised ranches, possibly with a garage, attached garage. and split level entry. Some of them are split level entry. They're just standard homes. They don't have any, beautiful historic wraparound porches and all that stuff. They're just traditional style homes.
Built in the 80s. My particular house did have a basement and, living area downstairs, but, it was built in like 82.
That's in the 80s.
Yeah.
So to be experiencing this stuff and not, there wasn't a cemetery behind you guys. There was just a traditional style, just family home, a family dwelling.
Yeah.
And you guys had these experiences. Do you feel like whatever energy that was taunting your family or just being active in your home, do you feel like it was something that's been with you this whole time?
Well, in that particular house, there were so many different spirits there, so many different energies, even looking at the images that I don't have, it's just so many faces I didn't understand. Like, it's like 2 black people sitting around the table,
Yeah.
Then another one I seen, at least 5 different images, different types of images in there. So I don't know if that means there are 5 different spirits or, one spirit, changing into other images or.
Yeah. Shape shifting or something like that.
Yeah, but.
You actually saw the physical, because sometimes I can see the physical face and sometimes I can only see a silhouette that tells me a little bit. So you could actually see their faces.
Yeah, it was very clear. And they were like chilling like around the table, just talking or I don't know. It was weird, Yeah. So I even called ADT and, see if there was any way image could be like if there's any way like the stuff that I had could catch an image like that and it, be for something else. I was like, no. I mean, they couldn't explain it, And so I was like, usually what's on there is what's on there. So
this is the live footage of what it is actually recording.
Yeah, it's not like somebody was tapping into my system and, or getting images from somewhere else.
Right.
I mean, because there was stuff there, that was actually there, but there was stuff there that wasn't there, So.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were trying to make sure ADT didn't have some type of
Glitch or something.
Right, to where it was transmitting images and imagery from something else to your footage.
Nope.
And then causing that, because I know sometimes with those baby monitors, right, they have that additional intersection, and then somebody else's audio connects to yours, and it can cause you to think you're hearing your conversations in there. So that's very trippy. When did you end up leaving that house?
What year was it? I left that house in 2000. Let's say 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and how long did you reside there?
I lived there for about 8 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And, initially everything was fine, but then over a period of time, I don't know what activated it or what fed it, but I do know that once we were getting a divorce, going through the messy divorce, that negative energy just seemed to heighten it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it in all truthfulness, it existed before any of the divorce or any of that negative energy started spiraling into that. But it definitely couldn't fed it.
Absolutely.
Because you guys are much more emotionally vulnerable. And now the energies are like, okay, all right, high five. Everybody come out now.
Yeah.
They've all just started attaching to this dynamic and this situation and this individual because your emotions are so wonderful. So you stayed there for about 8 years. Then you finally separated. Do you know who the new tenants are?
No, I just want to stop by there. And I do have a friend that I know that lives right across the street.
Yeah.
And, he knew, he was aware because we were Facebook friends, and I believe I spoke to him about it before. And I wanted to ask him if he know the people who live, across, and if they have had any experiences of their own, And I actually drove past a couple of times and wanted to, knock on the door, but I want to be,
right. Like, you want to be a weirdo with it. Yeah. And like, hey, you homeowners,
yeah.
You ever experienced anything weird here?
Yeah, if I happened to caught them in the park driveway or something, then
Really probably
engaged in conversation with stopping somebody's door.
So is it a new homeowner? Did they purchase the property, or are they like tenants?
They purchased it.
They purchased it, so they
end up getting it.
there. It is their home. And I usually felt more comfortable during my investigations with people who actually own the property versus renters, because they owned it, so they had vested interest in it versus somebody else that's in liabilities. But I think you should, and if you need somebody to go with you,
Okay.
I will go with you.
Yeah, I'll be anxious.
I'll be the bold person to knock on their door
Yeah.
and ask
Yeah.
and see what they say. And I've done it before, and I've had people that says, "You really want me to tell you what's going on in this house? Like, I can tell you that? I can share this with you?"
Wow.
Yes, you can. I've done it several times to several properties that people have lived in because they just want to know what is happening now. So if you want me to go with you, I will definitely do that. But if you want to ask your friend first, he checks the temperature.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah, check the temperature first. But I would definitely go with you. So that's interesting. So you moved out of that house, South Kansas City, and you move into another house?
No, I moved into an apartment
Okay.
and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
In Lenexa.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Lenexa is in Kansas. So you're now in Kansas.
Well, at the time, yes. I was, yeah.
Gotcha. At that time, you moved to Kansas. Did you experience anything additional?
No, I can't say I experienced anything at that place, Yeah, it's pretty laid back and, peaceful. So,
Peaceful.
yeah.
So nothing surfaced from the past and traveled this way and followed you into that location. So would you say you were kind of peaceful for a time being after leaving that house in Kansas City?
Definitely.
You had a little bit of breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did you stay in Lenexa?
I stayed there for about a year and a half.
Okay.
2 years.
You had about 2 years of breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
When you left Lenexa, where did you relocate to?
Overland Park.
Overland Park. Are you still in Kansas, by the way?
No, in Pitts.
Okay. Gotcha. So after leaving the house in South Kansas City, were there any other encounters that you had?
Yeah, actually, my ex and I moved there together, the Overland Park spot, and there we used to that's another one where we would hear each other's name being called, and stuff. So never seen anything, but that was something that would happen often. I would hear her call my name, but she didn't, and vice versa, and stuff. So, or even my daughters when they were over, they'd come in the room like, "Daddy, you just call me?" Like, no, I didn't call you, But it was real, but
Real.
yeah.
Do you feel like it was something that reminded you of those past times back in your early days? You like,
Them all together.
is
Yeah.
this coming back? Is this
Yeah.
happening again? Gosh, I just got over it.
Yeah, but to understand that, I don't understand why that happens,
Yeah.
It's like weird because you actually hear the person's voice, and
Yeah.
you swear it was them, calling you and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but then they lied. Especially when they would say, it'd always be like, "Daddy, did you call me?" Or I would hear them call me,
Yeah.
that stuff, and yeah.
And then it would be crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, no, that wasn't me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
After that, did you have any other experiences, or did you get an opportunity to just finally have some breathing room?
Yeah, for a while it was good. More recently, purchased the house in Independence, Missouri. That was 2021, I guess.
Yeah.
Purchased the house. And yeah, same thing, the voices and stuff like that, And my stepbrother passed away. We were close and stuff like that. So this was about 2 years ago. My stepbrother passed away. We were close, so I was sharing with my son's mom. After the funeral, went to the funeral, came home, and I was sharing with my son's mom some stories about my stepbrother and stuff. And I had my son on my lap. He was about 4 or 5 at the time. Super smart, aware, and he can communicate very well, And he's he's pretty bright.
Yeah.
So he was sitting on my lap as I'm telling his mom about, the experiences and stuff. Well, some of the, things that me and my brother did together, some stories about my brother and stuff like that. So my son's sitting on my lap, and he's facing this way, as I'm telling her the story. He was like, "Daddy, who's that?" And he pointed behind me, and I looked back, and I just kept talking because, like that's kind of weird. He said it like 5 more times, to the point where I'm like, because his mom was hearing us, and she was like, "Oh, that's weird." And so we both didn't see anything, but I felt like that was my stepbrother, visiting us, visiting me for the last time and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and stuff,
And how old was your son then?
It was about 4 or 5.
He was about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then was it
4.
daytime, nighttime when
It
you
was daytime. Yeah.
and then he's like, "Who is that?"
Yeah.
And what room were you guys in?
We're in the living room and stuff, sitting on the couch. It was all up, and he kept saying it was pretty persistent, like you wanted to know, I'm like, "Daddy, who's that?" But he wasn't scared,
Yeah.
There was no fear.
He just was curious.
Yeah.
Wow. And you believe that it was your stepbrother, your presence in there. And you said your stepbrother passed away. And I'm sorry if I missed this part. Was he in that same house when he passed away?
No.
Oh, and he was completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As when was his passing tragic or just
Yeah, it was absolutely tragic and sudden,
was a sudden
Yeah.
tragic incident? It wasn't natural causes, so this was a emotionally traumatizing situation for you, which could have made you even more vulnerable during that time. And you believe it was your brother that your son misstaged.
Absolutely.
How old is your son now?
He's 6.
He's 6. So this was just a couple years ago.
That was a couple years ago.
Wow. Has he mentioned anything else since then?
He's mentioned, like he'll hear something, or he'll say something was noise was in the room, or he's seen something in his room or whatever. Can't really describe it. He don't really like to go into detail and stuff like that because he it's care of him. But I know it's something that he deals with or has dealt with, and something he don't know how to really process it. So,
Do you talk to him about, what he feels?
yeah, try to bring it out of him and stop trying to tap too much into it because it opens it up, and want to make it to where he can come talk to you about it and whenever he's comfortable.
Yeah.
Instead of really pressing. That's one thing I didn't mention. I did have a dog later, standing at that life place on Fremont, in South Kansas City. I had a miniature schnauzer, and it's not super smart, trained well, and we'll be just sitting down, and he'll just start growling, all of a sudden, and he'll look at the door, or he'll be downstairs and he'll look at towards the door and downstairs, just start growling, then he'll just take off running, and he'll go chasing something out of the door. I have to open the door for him and let him out. So he's sort of
Scared to stay in there.
Well, it's like it was chasing something. He was going after it.
Oh, he was chasing something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so what room was that in?
We'll be downstairs in the basement, the man cave and stuff. And the way that the house is set up, you have the front entrance, and like we said, you can go down to the garage, and from the garage you can go down further to the man cave area.
Yeah.
So the man cave was right here, and there's stairs, that goes up, and stuff. So he would stairs goes up until the garage, and then he would growl at the door, go up, go on the way through that room I showed you with the image, and then out to the back patio, just chasing it all after nothing else. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Just go out, growling, barking or something.
So any other time your dog was pretty disciplined, and didn't really respond like that? Did he respond with people like knocking the door? Did he bark and all that stuff?
He you mark a little bit, but not that. We're not very growl.
Well, it would be
more curious and excited to see somebody, but
Yeah.
not the growl where he's like chasing something.
Something that was just, because usually when pets are growling and they get into that sensory, it's something that they know should be there,
Definitely.
and that's not what people consider normal. Because dogs and animals, they have a very, very strong sensitivity to these other energies and other elements of life that we don't always get that privilege to see until we get what I call our individual sensitivities, like what you have. They have them consistently. So was he the only pet you had there?
Yeah.
Or just So he wasn't influenced by any other pets or anything like that. So it was just him. So he definitely seen something. Yeah. He definitely seen something, experienced something. And it sounded like he was pretty protective. So that's a good thing. Some dogs and animals, especially cats, they just run. Okay. You know, they're not running toward it to try to figure out how to protect their family. So it seems like he was very protective of his eyes out. So you had that, you had an animal. You moved out 2 years ago, your son had some experiences, and now here you are in my studio. Since then, since your son's experiences, which you've been through a lot of stuff.
You just say moved out from where? 2 years ago.
Well, moved out, I'm sorry, with your son. You were living in Independence. Is that where you still at now? Or gotcha. So you moved out of Fremont, fast forward, left Kansas, back to Missouri 2 years ago. Your son had experiences, and now here you are.
No fun.
So, have you talked to anybody about any of this since then?
No, I mean, my son's mom, she had something. Well, it's pretty, it was often for a while or frequent where we would hear each other call names. Our, girls would, or daughters would, hear us call their name and stuff. But I said about 6 months ago, about a year ago, she was sitting on the couch and stuff, and she felt somebody grab her shoulder, and stuff. So she wanted to, she wanted to talk about that stuff though. But because she wouldn't just say it, so that had to really be something about sitting there or sitting next to her. But of course, I didn't see anything, but she said something physically grab her shoulder.
Did she tell you in that very moment? So this must have been really intense.
Yeah, she like that was weird,
Yeah, that is.
But she don't really want to talk about it or, really give her.
She's logical skeptic. Didn't want to talk about it. This was strange. You should know.
Yeah.
But that wasn't you.
Yeah, because she knows I deal with that quite a bit, and she likes to deny the stuff, or deny the existence of it. Yeah.
So your wife your wife knew about your experiences, and she accepted those. Did you have any issues as far as her believing or that? Because I know sometimes one person believes certain things, the other person is a skeptic.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like that was a big conflict in your relationship?
I mean, she accepted that it exists. She just gonna want to deal with it or talk about it and stuff.
Yeah.
She's a pretty straight up person, so be pulling your leg about stuff or making like stories on the house.
So you gotta tell me, when did you unload onto her that you were having or had these experiences?
I'm a big communicator, so any relationship I have, I'll tell so early on, like it's some experience,
yeah,
and stuff, because I get deep into like paranormal podcasts, being a truck driver, I listen to that, truck driver stories and all kind of podcasts and stuff like that. So I like to tell people my experiences and be surprised, like people never bring it up until you bring it up and stuff. People keep balled up like anywhere. I would just talk to this lady that I work with, not directly, I don't work directly with her, but it's around her, and we're having a conversation. I was opening up about my experience as a summer. She said she got pretty extreme with it and stuff. I don't know. She said she got violated by a spirit, and I don't know if she was trying to relate to me or it was legit,
It was a legitimate occurrence. And when you say violated, sexually?
Yeah, that's actually
Wow.
So yeah.
And I have heard that. Is she local here in the city?
She's out in some part of Missouri country town. I think Kaiser Drive. I don't know the city she said or the town, forgot, but it's like hour east of the Sun. Yeah, forgot the Long Jack or something like that. I found the lumber.
Do you think she would be interested in sharing her story?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, she did say I was the first person she ever told. She said she didn't even share it with her husband. So
Yeah.
I mean, especially that type of
That's a very delicate experience to share, especially if it happened when you were married.
Yeah.
And you're like, can this happen again?
But she said it was with her previous husband, and she didn't ever share it with him.
She never shared it.
Probably with her current. So
Well, I would be interested in hearing that story. And if she's an hour outside of this metropolitan area. I can even do an audio where we don't have to be in the studio. We could just do a complete audio Zoom. But if you don't mind mentioning that to her and just tell her about it, or send her the footage of yours or something, if you still have contact with her, I would love to hear her story. But you have been through an immense amount of paranormal impacts. If there was anything that you could tell somebody who's listening or just wanted to know more about these experiences, what would you say?
That is natural. I think people are scared of it because we don't understand it. It is natural. I mean, the spiritual world is just as natural as this physical world that we live in. Just the fact that we don't understand it. Not everybody understands it. So
Yeah.
it's not common. It's common to, but not to everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you having been, and this is a manly man, okay? He's not, fabricated with anything. You have a sense of masculinity about you, and looking at you, you would never think things like this would have happened to you. You have a very strong physique about you, and you seem very, very strong-willed.
Beautiful.
So, first impression of you,
Mm-hmm.
you would never think that you had been through that.
Yeah, it's pretty serious, John.
Yeah. So, and you've been in the military. You've been you're a husband. You're a father. You work for the Department of Homeland Security. You have been in such stable, strong, dominant roles, and to have these paranormal impacts that you have had little intimate layers of discussing with certain people, you wouldn't know. So the interesting thing, everybody, is that these occurrences happen to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're the head of Department of Homeland Security, or been in the military, been a husband, father, a pillar in the community. You have had an experience that some people would find extremely uncommon, and strange. So this platform, again, is to unsurface these experiences and have these conversations so we can share what everyday, ordinary people are going through.
Yeah, because we're not crazy.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people don't want to share because they realize that the average person will look at them like, crazy person, because they never experienced it. Even people that are in church, you share certain things that I've experienced, spiritually with, even a pastor. Like, then some pastors, not everybody has dealt with it or experienced it before. So,
Yeah. Did you, and this is one big thing before we kind of end it a little bit. I've had such an amazing time talking to you, and I've been looking forward to this. Did you ever reach out to anybody at church, or go to anybody in ministry?
Yeah, there's a church that I went to, and I just not necessarily share my experience, but I, just tried to fill him out and see what he thought about, dealing with that. And he never experienced anything like that, so it was like, yeah. So it really wasn't a thing to him,
Yeah.
to where I could open up and share my experience to him, because he wasn't open to it,
Gotcha. And was this a pastor or a Christian or something? So you felt like there was a block there, that I feel like, all right, I can't go as far as sharing these experiences because it won't be reciprocated or won't be respected or understood. So you kind of felt like there was a barrier there, between even going past your immediate family with talking about it, which is not uncommon. It's not uncommon, and it happens very frequently. And then when you feel like you can't go to anybody outside of the unit of your home, you just feel like, oh, I just let it go. I just let it go. And again, especially in our Black communities, certain demographics, we feel we are restricted to how far we can talk about it. So, Brandon, it has been such an amazing time talking to you. You sharing these amazing experiences, and the things that you have been through are it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm definitely a believer. So everything that you have experienced, I truly believe you have gone through. And it was so amazing having you on here and sharing your thoughts, your family history, and the things that you've experienced in these encounters. And Again, if you want me to go to Fremont with you,
Okay.
you let me know.
For sure. It was a pleasure being on here. Thanks for having me, and you're an amazing interviewer.
Thank you. Thank you. I need more credit for that, y'all. You need more credit for that. But Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. Paranormal Impact is normal.